What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We're here with some more NFL DFS picks and lineup advice for tonight's single game showdown slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Monday Night Football, San Francisco 49ers and the New York Jets. Welcome, I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy. And in this video, we're going to discuss the injuries that impact the slate. There are a few. Low risk lineup construction tips and ideas, picks, and strategies for the biggest contest that DraftKings and FanDuel has to offer for tonight's showdown slate. Before we get into it, have to give a shout out to Jack, longtime members of OccupyFantasy.com or viewers of this channel. Know Jack, he's the architect of our lineup builder at Occupy Fantasy. He absolutely crushes single game contests and short slates, which, by the way, we will have a short slate in a couple of weeks here. So Jack will join me on the channel for a breakdown of that slate. But last night, Jack, a three-way tie in the FanDuel single game GPP for the Rams and the Lions, took home $45,000. Big shout out to Jack. I know a lot of people were congratulating him in our Discord last night. Big up to Jack. Huge score. Love to see whether it's our members, viewers, or our staff take down big scores in showdown contests. So big shout out to Jack. All right, let's turn to tonight's game and let's go to DraftKings and we'll talk about the injuries that impact the slate first and foremost. If we start on the Jet side, there's really just one that we have to think about, and it's Mike Williams, who tore his ACL with the Chargers last year, had most of the offseason to recover. He's still not fully back. He is fully practicing, but all reports indicate that he'll be on some sort of snap count here in this game. And so, yes, he's a little overpriced on both sites for his role, but he's a big play guy, touchdown guy, could easily pay off his price tag. While he's not going to play all the snaps, Garrett Wilson is obviously the alpha on the other side, but Alan Lazard, as well as Xavier Gibson, and maybe the rookie Malachi Corley will get some snaps as well. But really, it's Lazard and Gibson that are the biggest beneficiaries of Mike Williams not being fully 100% up to speed. Now, on the San Francisco side, we have a couple of questionable tags. Most will not impact the slate. We got to start with Christian McCaffrey. Has the questionable tag, has been dealing with this calf/Achilles injury basically all of preseason. He is expected to be good to go tonight. And he said on Friday in his post-practice interview that he's expected to play his normal role. Maybe there are a couple snaps here and there. But if he can't play his full allotment of snaps, it'll be Jordan Mason is the backup. He's 3K on DraftKings. 3K on DraftKings. Here he is. Jordan Mason, Elijah Mitchell, formerly backup running back. He's on injured reserve, so it'll be Jordan Mason backing up Christian McCaffrey tonight. They have an offensive lineman, Aaron Banks, who's questionable. He is expected to play. Brandon Ayuk, who missed all of training camp basically, trying to figure out this contract situation, finally got signed. He's been practicing, and I think it was head coach Kyle Shanahan said that he expects him to play around 70% of the snaps on Monday Night Football. Now, coaches are really bad at estimating these things ahead of time. So there's a good chance Ayuk plays around that, plays less than that, plays more than that. I would just anticipate his pretty normal role here. And depending on the type of contest we're playing, we can play for some chaos otherwise. Obviously, Deebo Samuel is still there. Jawan Jennings is their locked in wide receiver 3. If Ayuk is out, or not out, but if he's not up to speed for his full conditioning, we believe it's going to be Chris Conley at $200 who gets the beneficiary of those missing snaps. Now, most industry sites have Ronnie Bell projected to take those snaps, and that could be right. But we followed all of preseason as close as you could possibly follow NFL. And if you're around for preseason DFS, you know this. And in the games where the starters got starters reps, and Ayuk obviously wasn't playing, it was Chris Conley that took his role alongside Deebo Samuel, not Ronnie Bell. So just think about that. If you're looking for a salary saver, maybe he plays a few more snaps than he normally would. It's Chris Conley with Ayuk not being fully back with his conditioning after holding out for most of training camp. And finally, again, this is an injury that most sites won't think about, but Talanoa Hufanga, who is strong safety for the 49ers, made the top 100 NFL players list last year. All-around player at safety. He's going to be out tonight, and so that just bumps the Jets' offense a little bit. Now, Aaron Rodgers is coming off that Achilles injury and didn't play all but 4 snaps last year. Yes, he had more time to recover than Kirk Cousins did, but you look at how poorly Kirk Cousins was moving yesterday for Atlanta, and it does give you some pause for concern here for Aaron Rodgers and how this offense will operate. We'll see. Definitely not an ideal circumstance for someone of his age, but he's back. He's going to play. He's going to start. So Aaron Rodgers good to go for tonight. How effective he be is another question. So, all right, let's talk about low risk contests, 50-50s, double ups, head to heads, where you just have to beat half the field to double your money. Generally, We talk about in these videos every single showdown slate. We try to lock up all the scoring, playing both workhorse running backs, playing both quarterbacks, playing any obvious values, and then fitting in around that. If we try to do that tonight, let's just say we go McCaffrey, who's going to be the most popular captain on the slate, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, no, sorry, not Garrett Wilson, Brock Purdy, Aaron Rodgers. 2,100 per player, that's not a ton, but I'll give you some guys that stand out as values. Jeremy Ruckert, they're tight end 2. Yes, he's not Tyler Conklin, who's the tight end 1. But as we follow preseason DFS, we can tell which players are important to teams. And Ruckert got held out the entire preseason. So clearly they have some sort of role for him. And over the past couple of seasons that he's been on the roster, they've been trying to get him more and more involved in the offense. So Ruckert at $1,200 is certainly a value. That leaves you $3,000. You could play Jordan Mason. You could play Braylon Allen, the Jets' number 2 running back rookie. Could play Xavier Gibson, the other beneficiary we talked about of the Mike Williams absence, going to be the starting slot receiver for them. So that's something like that could easily work. Or you could go down to Chris Conley, who we mentioned at $200, a pure punt, $4,000. You could get up to the Jets defense, which will be somewhat popular. You could play Conklin, you could play Juwan Jennings. So I think this is the way. It feels pretty bad not playing Debo or Ayuk or Garrett Wilson given their season-long ADPs. But historically, this has been the way to play low-risk contests on DraftKings for showdown slates. And we really like this approach. So a couple punt options, we can make this work tonight, which is something we haven't said for the first few primetime showdown slates of the season. Now on FanDuel, you obviously cannot do this because they're the 4 most expensive players on the slate. That leaves you with negative $1,000 per player. Pretty much can avoid low-risk contests on FanDuel tonight. If you have to play low-risk or you want to play low-risk, you think you can find an edge. What I think the way to do is you play McCaffrey at MVP, and then in order to get access to the quarterback's floor in ceiling, you can play all their pass catchers like this. That leaves you 8,500. You could play one of the kickers. That's not bad. Or if you don't want to play, let's say you don't play Debo, you still want to get both running backs in, and Breece Hall is 15K. You would have to punt the last position, so it makes it really tough to do something like this. It's just a really tough slate on low-risk contests. I think the best way, honestly, is McCaffrey and then 3 receivers, which, again, is not a low-risk construction by any means, but I think that's the best projection, the best medium projection you can ask for on tonight's slate for low-risk contests. All right, let's transition and let's talk about high-risk contests, leagues, satellites, GPPs, whether it be small field, less than 200 players, the largest contest on DraftKings and FanDuel with big prizes up top. Here to give you some strategies for that. But first, obviously, a water break, which we did get a sponsor request for. I've been asking for sponsors for the water break since late last season. I don't think that sponsorship is going to work out, though. I Googled the water brand, and the first autofill for the water brand in the Google search was water brand scam. So I don't think we're going to go with that. If there's any legitimate sponsors out there for the water break, it doesn't have to be water necessarily. Just let us know. So let's get one more. We're dehydrated. Let's get one more. All right. Now, high-risk strategies. Let's talk about small field first. Less than 200 players. It's been a big discussion in our Discord the past couple of days about playing small field GPPs. In fact, as I'm recording this right now, Monday morning, there's a discussion happening about contest selection and GPP size right now. So if we talk about small field, less than 200 players, less than 300 players, even smaller, and the field is either going to captain on DraftKings, CMC, or Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is the 3rd most expensive player. They expect to have probably 50 to 60% of the ownership on DraftKings. So I think you can still do that. You just have to play 2 or lower owned guys in the flex spots. We expect Tyler Conklin to be the most popular punt on the slate at $3,600. But any of the other guys I mentioned, Mason, Allen, Gibson, Lazard, Ruckert, and even Chris Conley down at $200, certainly options to get different if you play CMC captain. If you don't play CMC captain, it becomes a lot less restrictive on the ownership that you're allowed to use in your small field GPPs. Another thing is, and a longtime member Random Rules brought it up on Discord this morning. He was saying that when playing showdown contests this year, he's been using a lot of double quarterback builds. I personally played every single showdown slate so far in week 1. I use a lot of double quarterback builds. It has to do with the pricing. I mean, look at the pricing here. You have McCaffrey, Hall, Wilson, Debo, and then Purdy and Rodgers are $9K. So with a lot softer pricing, you end up with more quarterbacks in your lineups, but also you end up with less of the mid-range players, which means lower ownership on the defense and kickers. Defenses don't normally get a ton but the kickers have gotten even less than we typically get because of this pricing dynamic. So a great way to get different tonight is playing the defenses or especially the kickers. Now, the Jets defense at $3,200, they will also be popular here. They're only 3.5-point underdogs. Obviously, they're a great real life defense. And when you compare their price to the 49ers at 5,200, they're obviously going to be more popular as a result. No one's going to play the 49ers defense. They're a great high-risk pivot against Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old, coming off the Achilles injury. But Jake Moody and Greg Zuerlein, too, will hover around that 20% mark, where typically we see those guys get 30% plus in small field. So a little bit of an ownership discount on these mid-range special teams plays. Great small field plays tonight, in addition to large field. And again, we talked about Xavier Gibson, Alan Lazard, Jeremy Ruckert. Really like those guys as, if they score a couple of points in your CMC captain lineup, that is enough. Gibson, Lazard, Ruckert, 1,200 to 2,400 on DraftKings. Really like that idea. Now, FanDuel, it is different because obviously only 5 roster spots. You can't punt as much. CMC going to approach 50% MVP in these contests. Don't mind it. Small field GPPs, you only have to play one lower owned guy on FanDuel. So you could still play these guys like Gibson. Conklin's going to be popular. You could play Gibson. You could play Lazard. Chris Conley, not so much on FanDuel with only 5 spots. Ruckert. So it's possible. It's a really tough slate. So you either play CMC and play a low-owned flex, or you play a non-CMC MVP, which, again, you play one of the quarterbacks like Purdy or Rodgers, it's certainly possible on this slate. Can CMC get priced out at $2,500 more? A little bit tougher in small field. Really, I think FanDuel is large field only tonight if you have the freedom to select what contest you play, which all of you do. And let's talk about the largest contest now and give you some ideas on what I'm thinking about for the biggest contest on both sites. I think 49ers wide receivers, captain, MVP, are going to be great options, great pivot options. You can do this in small field too. But playing Debo, he is 14-4 at captain. Ayuk 12-6. Obviously, the Jets have great corners. Sauce Gardner, one of the best corners in the league. As a result, we'll see a little bit lower ownership on their captain spots. So Debo, Ayuk, love them on FanDuel as well. We got them at less than 3% projected MVP ownership on FanDuel. Really great large field plays. And again, even though the Jets defense is going to be popular, even though these lower scoring projected game scripts haven't necessarily hit on the primetime showdown slates so far that I've talked about in these videos, really like playing for lower scoring games. So whether it's like 4-2 or 5-1 Jets builds or 4-2, 5-1 49ers builds, I prefer the 49ers side just because of their defense is going to be lower owned. But you play for a lower scoring slot fest, turnovers, sacks, potentially defensive touchdowns. Playing a defense in your lineup is a really good way to get different, like it in large field and small field as well. And finally, we have to talk about the backup running backs. So there's a big if CMC is limited in any way, or they want to reduce his workload at all this year, probably not going to happen. You could play Jordan Mason, 3K, has been impressive every time he's touched the ball in the NFL, whether regular season or during the preseason. But Jordan Mason, 3K, a really good option and here's how I would play Jordan Mason tonight. Either I would play him, and this is a high-risk contest, either play him not with CMC with the idea being CMC is limited in any way. Jordan Mason takes away enough touches and production for CMC not to be optimal. Other ways, you play him with CMC, but without Brock Purdy, and it's a really run-heavy game plan for San Francisco. Or you could play them with Purdy as well, but you play San Francisco onslaughts, 5 49ers in the lineup. Those guys, defense included. You can do it on FanDuel for those guys with the defense. That's the way to play it. I really like the first approach, CMC being limited and Jordan Mason taking away touches. However, this has happened countless times on 49er showdown slates where they've said they want to reduce CMC's touches, or he's coming a little banged up, and he just ends up scoring 4 touchdowns anyways. It's like, vacation ideas not getting out of the friends group chat. Yeah, they're really fun to talk about, but we know they're not going to happen. And that's what it is with playing running back 2s for San Francisco home showdown slates. Yes, it sounds great in theory. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But Jordan Mason less than 10% owned on both sites. It's worth that shot in high-risk contests. Same goes for Braylon Allen. Was extremely productive as an 18-year-old freshman in college at Wisconsin and looked great in his preseason debut. And then they even held him out of the final preseason game. They really like what he has to offer here. They took him in the draft, obviously, despite having Breece Hall. I don't think he's going to get more than a handful of touches. But if we're wrong and they want to limit Breece in some way in the first week of the season, Braylon Allen has the talent to benefit, and he's going to be 5% owned or whatever it is on both sites. Prefer Mason over Allen if we have to choose between the two. And again, these are all in the 1% outcome where Allen or CMC gets banged up mid-game and these guys benefit more from that, which we don't want to see any injuries, but it can happen. It happens in showdown slates all the time. Then Mason and Allen are really high risk but high reward plays if they get more production, more snaps than their median projections indicate. So that'll do it for this video. Appreciate you all watching. As always, we've gotten great responses, great viewership here over the first week of the season. We appreciate every single one of you. The next video you'll see me in is on the Thursday Showdown slate. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel here on YouTube. It is free to do so. You'll get notified when we go live or upload these videos for any Showdown slates, for main slates. I think we had 5 or 6 videos this week for NFL. If that's your thing, subscribe. It's free to do. All you gotta do is click subscribe. The more subscribers we get, it allows us to do more things with the channel. So it's a great free way, a great quick way to show your support. We'd appreciate it. Still less than 50% of our viewers are subscribed. Let's rectify that. If you're not already, please click subscribe. It's mutually beneficial. Give us a thumbs up. That also helps us out more than you would actually think. So a thumbs up is also great. Any questions? Comment on the video below. We've had great discussions in the comments the past couple of Showdown slates on these videos. So comment below. I will get back to you if you have any questions about the slate for the next 8 or 9 hours. Go ahead and comment. Discord is the best way, obviously. OccupyFantasy.com/Discord. Chat with other members of the community. Chat with staff. Sweat out the games with us. We love having you in there. And the lineup builder I talked about that Jack uses, that he helped build, that he mostly built himself, that is on the site that he used to win 45K last night. You can have access as well. OccupyFantasy.com/membership. All the links are in the description. And our daily plug. Haven't even mentioned that yet in this video. That'll be out here in a couple of hours. By the time you watch this, it'll probably be out. But that is our rundown of the slate, a written article that has top play rankings, lineup strategies, everything I went into this video into further detail. One of our writers, Bismo, does a great job of that. And our model has projected ownership and rankings for every player on the slate. So Brian Jester, Occupy Fantasy, thank you for listening. As always, and good luck on tonight's Jets and 49ers Showdown slate.